move over to something like Hangouts always works.
And I realized that the next day when I was sitting on the toilet and like I was having more of a calm moment than a rage moment where I just wanted to kill the world.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, you dumbass, you could have just gone to Hangouts like we've done in the past, but that wasn't.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of wondering. But
part of my mental state.
It was you were angry and pissed off, and it wasn't working when it should. And yeah, I can get that. I get that more than like you get so mad at something that you're just like fuck it all, burn it down. Just
it was. I was just like
flames inside my face.
Yeah.
No, so the problem for me was I was like swimming in pissosity. Like it was just so bad, and I don't think Chester and Brady knew how mad I was. Like,
yeah,
because I mean, part of it was like some of the sound stuff. Like I thought I had the sound stuff worked out, and then they couldn't hear me at all. So they saw me. They could probably read my lips about the number of motherfucks and goddams and son of a bitches, like because they couldn't see, or they could see but they couldn't hear, and that's what really kind of like started at the end, did me in, and I was like, fuck it.
So you were able to get it so your video was going out to OBS as well as going into Skype? Because that doesn't work for me.
Well, and that was the other thing that was kind of weird to me, because I could get it to work on the Mac that way. So
I'm sure
I didn't understand why Windows would be different. Because I started to feel that I was like, oh, this feels like what Jeff has to deal with, that he can't be seen by us when we're recording. So, because the way I think OBS is working, it only can... Because, yeah, that was the one thing, is
it's like, I think it's more of a Windows thing than it's an OBS thing.
Yeah. Because it was basically saying that the camera was already in use.
Right.
That's what it was.
It was being used by another program, right?
Right. And I was kind of like, why the fuck is this a problem? It wasn't a problem before. But what do I know? So, yeah, it was just one of those things. So for tomorrow night, Damon, I don't know what we're going to do, but Hangouts will be the thing. And then we just have to figure out if we're going to do a double episode. Hey, James is in the chat.
Are we live?
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh. Damon's not paying attention is
as usual.
But it's okay.
Oh,
our producer didn't tell us. I just saw the notification.
I said we were going to live again. You just weren't. You were just in the middle of talking about other things and just kind of missed it. That's all.
No,
it's fine. It's fine. Everything's fine.
No.
It's fine.
No. We went live and then you paused it.
And I stopped.
And that was the last
because
thing
I needed to fix it. And then later on, after I fixed it, I said, "Okay, I'm going live again," because you guys were still talking and stuff, and I'm like, I'm just not gonna wait for this. I'm just going live again.
Okay, so we were talking about another show on the show.
But it's okay. Like, they don't already know about the other show.
It's fine. I'm telling you, it's fine.
Hashtag never going to be a professional podcast. All right.
We're just high level. We're just higher level amateurs.
Yeah, something. But hey, there's 7 watching, so there's something. They're not all in chat, or at least saying anything in chat.
Men say 6, but
said, I am good to go. I don't know about the two of you.
I'm pretty much good to go. What was I?
Live on the big screen, chat on the small screen.
Yeah, I can't remember what I was gonna do, but I think it's fine.
See, AJ, I can't do that because I want to be doing other things on my small screen while I'm watching something else. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
By the way, listen to last week's show. Was so amused yet thrown off by the change that we did for the public RSS feed versus the Patreon.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a complaint. It was just this weird moment where I was kind of like, we play the exit, and then I was like, oh, that is the end of the show.
Mm-hmm. So the only two people who get that are those who watch it via YouTube or our patrons, and they can actually, because you guys know how to log into have the information to log into our Patreon account, you can actually get the RSS link there. Put that in your favorite podcatcher.
Oh, that's nice.
Hey, Philip.
No, I was looking at the whole Patreon thing. I'm looking at it now. It's kind of cool. We'll see. Anywho.
Have you never looked at the Patreon page?
I've looked at it. I'm looking at it recently and seeing how many patrons we now have is what I was trying to look at.
Speaking of which, do we want to kind of like fit the mentioning in with the feedback portion, or how do you want to do that? Or maybe like right after the regular commercial? We need to edit the meeting a new commercial, by the way. Unless you want me to rip the audio from the Patreon thing. But the Patreon thing doesn't talk about the thing. About the store.
The thing doesn't talk about the thing, because, the other thing.
The thing, the stuff, and the whatnot,
Mm-hmm. Because the whatchamacallit is, important. Let's do this then.
No, AJ, I'm not looking at porn.
Yeah.
Playing Criminal Case.
Oh!
Nice. Good to know.
All right. So
I'm just taking the assumptions that AJ says, I think we know what you want to do. And I'm like, well, no.
Yeah.
Okay, so
that's for other times.
Let me go put this back. Yes. No! Son of a biscuit. Undo is what I want. All right. Why don't we leave the thank you thing where I have it, and then we'll figure out what to do about moving it.
Okay.
Well, because we have an image that I put together that lists the names and the levels.
Yeah, I also was thinking of like that would be kind of like as I'm playing us off, kind of like have that. And thank you to our patrons. Say goodnight, everybody.
So you want to move it down to the bottom of closing?
No, that's where I thought we were putting the card.
Okay.
Like when we're ending the show, because we say it's an end card. So we're ending the show, we put that card up.
All right.
But we can still mention it. Sure, you did, AJ. But I thought we would mention the subscribers either right after the commercial, basically kind of like that's our point to like advertise, during that section.
Right.
So we talk about Patreon, we talk about, or we play the commercial, we talk about what we're wearing, we talk about Patreon, moving to feedback. Then at the end of the show, we give them a title card as well to like remind people thank you and stuff. Well, that's why I was thinking, but
right. Now you bring up a good point though. Like what I'm trying to figure out is how we, I guess, mention them.
Or we could do ad breaks in between each of our main sections. So like between the cooldown topics and the main topic, we do the commercial. And then between the main topic and the cooldown topics, we talk about our Patreon. So ad breaks.
Right.
We're doing this on the fly, folks.
Because obviously we didn't meet ahead of time to talk about it. I kind of like that idea. And Damon stepped away. So, What the heck is going on over here? Okay, that's that. All right. Well, when Chester's back up and running, we can probably figure out better doing a rearrangement of the layout and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Let me open it.
Yep. Sorry.
All right. All right.
Did you put out the fire or whatever?
Who, me? No,
Yeah.
I just need to go to the restroom.
I thought something came up with Jim, and so you were like, "I'll be right back," and then you.
No, I was just. I'm here. You're good.
Okay.
I'm not in the mood for piss play right now.
Oh my god.
Whoa. Okay. Left turn Albuquerque. Whatever.
Well, you need to go pee, right?
Got
Or
it.
Number 2. I don't know.
Okay.
You're not wearing your diaper.
Oh my god. Anywho, moving right along.
Moving right along. Shall we do this?
You would need
Yes.
the biggest soundboard to be able to play every sound cue in existence on this show for the shit that we say. That being stated, yes, let's begin the begin.
Okay, hold on a second. Situating myself. Switching to title. Letting Gary Primp. There we go. Where's the things? There are. 3, 2. It's March 11th, 2018. I'm Jeff.
Who's your bear? That's right. I am your bear.
I'm Damon.
Blue screen of death.
Aww.
This room is a pigsty, and you're a dirty pig boy.
Fuck you, you fucking fuck. Because you freaked me out. I'll explain in a moment. That makes me Gary.
Don't hurt nobody with your bad self.
Welcome to the Comes Out Loud, the podcast of Indeterminate Length, episode number 457. And Chester didn't get a blue screen. He just got the Windows logo, and that's it.
Right, but when the producer says in the midst of the beginning, blue screen of death, I thought you meant that you got a blue screen of death out of it. And I was like, all right, this shit is viral. And people wonder why we're doing fucking Patreon.
I just didn't think about, because it was all on the fly. So I'm like, okay, so let's reference Chester, blue screen of death. Although it wasn't what he had.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh, maybe I should just play his thing. Then Gary will get the hint.
Nope.
And
Apparently.
I mean, to be fair, you did not say, what is it that you used to say? I forgot now.
I say a whole bunch of different shit.
You used to say shit when we went off the rails, when the program would freeze or something.
Overload.
Yes, that's what it was. And since you didn't say that, I was like,
What does this mean? What?
I don't know what this means.
What? We haven't had an overload in a long time.
Okay. So
Thanks everyone for jinxing it. We've not had an overload in a long time.
Well, considering the reason why it was an overload was because the program I was using to record the audio would say overload.
Overload.
There was more to it, but kind of the key factor was
Right.
overload. Anyway, moving on.
All right. Yeah.
So social anxiety and taxes. So when you do a thing, and when you do the thing, the thing then mentions they hope to see you on Saturday, which was yesterday, during their live show at 2 p.m. downtown Austin. And you keep pondering whether I should go, if I shouldn't. And then you deliberately just not pay attention to the time and just continue playing games all day. You know that you were suffering from social anxiety because you didn't want to take the time to go downtown, be around a shit ton of other people, talk to some pretty neat people who do a podcast, and you just play games all day.
Oh,
So
I think
could have, but I didn't.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And who knows? Because like I would probably have to pay for parking, and then I go to the bar, and then I would feel obligated to get a drink. In my current financial situation, is that a really good idea? But is that really just making an excuse? We're not going.
Well, here's the thing I can say about this is anxiety manifests in all sorts of ways. I know many people who have it, and there's all sorts of behaviors that come out as avoidance as a way to handle anxiety. And that's not right or wrong. It's just the way it is. You know, I know lots of people that like have good intentions, but they don't follow through or feel they're unable to because it's too much. And I think some people are naturally absent-minded and they truly do get into something. And then they're like, oh my God, I completely forgot about it or whatever. And then there are other times where it's kind of like, you just know, oh, if I decide to clean my bathroom with a toothbrush, this will take a long time. And my bathroom will be amazing. I just won't be wherever I thought I was going to go.
Yeah. It's going to be a thing.
And I was thinking about it all the way until like noon 30, 1 o'clock or something. I'm like, do I want to go take a shower? Do I want to get dressed? Do I want to drive down? Do I want to try to find a parking spot? Do I want to try to find the bar? Do I want to try to? I will have to make sure I'm paying for the parking because it's downtown, somewhere on 6th Street. I probably could find it, but then how long does it take to find the parking spot and then getting from the parking spot in the car to go to the bar, and then I have to get the drink and do. Do I approach them? Say, hey, I was the thing on Tuesday when you mentioned it. You probably forgot because you mentioned, I think, in that episode about how you forget things that after the show.
Oh God.
And it's like all you said was oh, hope to see him on Saturday, etc. for South by Southwest Day because I'm in Austin, and that's me.
Just so you know, you asked yourself a lot of questions, and a lot of questions came after other questions, to which I thought, I don't ask that many questions when I'm feeling anxious, because usually the first 2 or 3 stop the whole thing. Like, do I want to go? No.
And the problem was I wasn't sure. I was like, I kind of want to go, but there's these other things. Like, is it me trying to like go through my mind and justify the reason why I shouldn't go, even though I kind of want to go, but I don't want to go? These are the reasons why I wouldn't want to go, but I kind of want to go because of the thing, and I'm just really happy because of this and that. And
so I think ultimately,
do you see why I consider this anxiety?
Yes. So I think ultimately, you do what's best for you, and I know it sounds quite crazy. Yes, would it have been nice to have gone? Possibly. But if going meant not having a good time, or ended up in a worse place than you were, then you always got to. That's the challenge. Everyone I think would have to face in something like that. But again, adding on top of that, this whole anxiety issue. Yeah, you're. But I agree with Gary that there were a lot of questions. So you were pretty much putting a lot of things in the way to kind of eventually say no. You know, because that'll be the thing. Yeah,
and it's like subconsciously, purposely, like putting things off before it was about time to be there. So, it's like my introvertedness just like kicked into overdrive, just like trying to find excuses of why I don't want to go. But I kind of wanted to go. I'm kind of kicking myself for not going, but I'm accepting that I didn't go, and here's the reasons why I didn't go, and kind of like justifying it myself. Yeah. So I really should have gone, but
can't rewrite the future or rewrite the past. So you can't rewrite the past; it's already passed. So
no, I know, but the first thing you said was where I was.
Rewrite the future. Yeah,
I was like.
Sorry, I was watching Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and yes.
And
they were in the future, and now they're back in the past, and that was the thing that like it's in my head. So
spoilers.
No, not spoilers. Well,
all
right. Listen, if you're not caught up to like a week ago episode, not the most recent episode, that's not necessarily
2
spoiling.
weeks at least.
Anyway. Move right along.
All right, here's the whole thing. Come on. It's Marvel and it's a series on TV. If they don't succeed at the current crisis, how the hell does the show continue? It doesn't.
Yeah.
I don't even know what the crisis you're talking about is.
Exactly. Anyway.
The season, they're caught in the future. And
really? I never knew that. Spoiler.
Well,
then.
Really a spoiler.
Anyways, to continue my thing, my taxes were accepted. So.
Yay.
Guess when I did them?
Yeah. Yesterday?
Nope, about an hour and a half ago. An hour ago.
Oh.
You did them right when we were supposed to start getting ready for this?
Okay, a little more than an hour and a half ago. It was around 6 o'clock, my time.
Okay. Because I was like, an hour ago, I'm pretty sure you were sending me a Skype call.
Yeah, I had all my forms, which I'm kind of like making sure nobody can read anything on them. All my forms, and I just went to my pick for the week, did my thing, hit submit, paid my thing, and I'm done. And
yay.
My taxes have been accepted since then. So, like, in less than 2 hours. I completed my taxes and they were accepted.
Okay. I want to say this to the people in live chat. Yay, James, that you're caught up. And Chuck, I'm sorry that you don't watch until Netflix.
Look,
so
I haven't seen past like somewhere in season 3, I think. Maybe 2. I don't remember. Well,
anyway. Oh, really? That's like me calling people out for talking about Orange is the New Black because I haven't seen it.
But you were talking about something that just aired a week ago. It's still in spoiler territory.
Right. My analogy is you're like, oh, I'm not even caught up to the current season, which is why I'm saying if I bitched about Orange is the New Black and I'm not even anywhere near the current season, then like that's the equivalency I'm trying to make. Like you can't really blame people. That's like complaining now about The Last Jedi, which I've watched a bunch of interesting post-movie things on YouTube talking about how like fans are all bent out of shape about what happened.
I have that
really
on iTunes.
I still haven't seen it yet.
Neither have I, but I at least have it pre-ordered, so I will be seeing it as soon as it comes out. I'll just be doing it on my couch instead of in a theater. Only difference. Anyways, hey Damon.
Yeah. So pre hitting that button, that's fine. So this weekend was the men's chorus retreat. We do normally in the spring and our Pride concerts, we always do an in-town one. But it's basically rehearsal intensive. We have sectionals. We try to buckle down on the music to kind of get it memorized in preparation for our concert. It was a good time. We had so Saturday is always people provide breakfast, and here's what always happens. They're like, we need people to bring breakfast. No one really signs up. Oh, well, maybe, no one will bring stuff, and we won't have a whole lot. And then you come in and there's a buffet, like donuts out the ass, um, um, frittatas, and this time around we had some really, really awesome biscuits and gravy. And as someone who doesn't usually like biscuits and gravy, this was really good biscuits and gravy. Like, really, really good.
I've had biscuits and gravy forever.
Yeah. So it was a good weekend. Learned a lot. We still have a few weeks until our concert. I believe our concert, if I'm not mistaken, is the weekend of the 7th. Yeah. So it's the weekend before Drenched Fur of April. It's the weekend before Drenched Fur. So, ta-da.
Timing.
That was one of the reasons why I was like, oh, well, maybe I could go to Drenched Fur, but I just not yet. Not this year. Not in the cards this year. Unless something.
Why don't you do this? Why don't you plan on going in 2019 and then work with everything else around that? Instead of putting it off each year, be like, I don't know if I'm going to.
Unless
things.
The chorus moves the date of their concert.
Yeah,
and then
this is what always happens. Like, I try not to plan too many things in relation to, because we almost always have a concert in April and we always have a concert in June, like usually around those times. So if something's in April, I need to be really wary about when it is, because the concert, and we also have a concert in December, and I've often I will on occasion miss that one, but the main reason I miss that one is because of Midwest, and I always tell myself I'm going to go to Midwest if the concert falls on the same weekend. I've given that weekend to that. So I may change that up and see what happens. But right now, I like your idea, Jeff, and I may consider it. I may consider a lot of things. The usual issue for me is I have a house and I have to pay for it. So,
well,
so
it's
about
prioritization here. So
yeah,
you start off house. I don't know about you, but shelter is one of the primary things for life, right? It's like food, water, and shelter, right? So house, priority. Next, you just start like prioritizing things. Like this year, they're prioritizing Drenched Fur over the men's course.
Well, and there's different ways to kind of look at stuff. I mean, to be fair, a lot of stuff happens in about let's see, November, December, January, February, March, May. Within about 7 months ish. Like we have Hibernation, which is in November, which a bunch of people go to. Then we have Midwest Bear Fest. Then we have a couple of things that happened in January, either between MAL or people going out to Arizona or New Mexico. And then we have NAB. Then we kind of move into March, which TBRU is going to start moving back into March, I believe. Yeah. And then we have Drenched Fur. Then we have Claw. Then we have IML. Then we have so unless you've got a large amount of disposable income, you can't really do it all.
Yeah.
So you got to kind of pick and choose. And I think that's what some people have been doing. And I say it that way because not everybody is continuing to go to the same events.
Yeah.
So
like there are thoughts and ideas in my head about what to do. Say, for example, 2019 is a good example of that. And that's going to be some based on what happens this year, and also how things play out on other fronts. I won't go into detail because this is going to be so. We'll see. Gary, how about you? What's going on with you?
Same shit, different day. It's just things kind of blend together. Yesterday I thought was Sundays. Anyways, because I did something with parents on Saturday that I normally would probably do on a Sunday type thing. So it just, and it's not a complaint, but and then we are quickly approaching the countdown for the event coming up. So my life is going to get weird and wild to focus on all that. So, yeah, no, we'll have something of that sort.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So, not to skip over Chester, but to catch everybody up in case you didn't know, Chester has PC issues, and we don't mean politically correctness. We mean that his personal computer, as of this morning, started behaving in ways unexpectedly, and so that's why he's not on the show tonight. And he really kind of needs to get that figured out, like how to know what to do next. So he's not with us tonight. We miss him. But yeah, there's that.
Yeah, well, missing you, Hester. Hopefully you can get some help with that. I don't know computers much at all, and I don't know how to deal with that. And I'm sure I'm hoping that there's someone out there that can assist in some capacity.
We're trying to help in what we can. So.
Yeah.
And the reality is, like I kind of made a quip, as being a smartass when we went to start recording about, people wonder why we're doing Patreon. I get that some people probably are not necessarily like excited about the idea that we're doing Patreon and how it's going to change things. But, 10 years the podcast has been going on, and it's a hobby, and it's everything that's coming out of our pockets and stuff. And so it would be nice to have the ability to know that we have good equipment that's going to operate the way we want it to. And I'm not saying that we've all invested in crappy stuff. It's just, as I always reminded in my professional classes, I would say, so who invented the thing that we're going to use? And they all kind of look at me really weird. And I'm like, not the actual person that invented the PC processor, but like man in general made all the equipment. And is man like perfect? Absolutely not. Therefore, everything that we've made is probably broken or going to break or have a problem or something like that. So, and it was more talking about like, just don't get, bent out of shape when stuff doesn't work, which is so ironically funny for me to say because of what happened last week with me and my computer.
And if you're a patron, you'll probably have a general idea from the pre-show.
So, yeah, I'm going to shut up now and sip some tea. We can move right along.
Okay, so we're going to start with this.
Now, whoever thought we'd be doing commercials?
I know I sure as heck didn't.
Being that we're a smaller scale podcast, we don't have advertisers knocking down our door to give us money, and that's okay.
Which is why we want to take a moment and tell you about two really great ways you can support Cubs Out Loud.
Over the past 9 years, COL has produced hundreds of audio episodes, and now we have matching video episodes for you to enjoy.
This year, we introduced the new COL logo and launched our new merch store over at Zazzle.com/CubsOutLoud.
Or you can also use the COL merchandise link on our podcast website to pull up the online store.
Here you can take a look through a range of products, including t-shirts, hats, poker chips, underwear, backpacks, and various other things with the COL logo on them.
And keep an eye out for new things to be added based on your interests and requests.
We typically can be found showing these great items off in the video stream of our shows.
Also, to help with our new format, we're doing YouTube video shows that help create the audio version. We have a GoFundMe campaign underway at gofundme.com/COLstream.
This campaign allows us to afford upgrading the PC that Jeff uses to produce our shows. Plus, a better computer means better quality streams.
And thanks in advance for not only listening to Cubs Out Loud, but helping support the podcasts too.
So, what are you wearing? I've got the my Texas orange, my first one. Then I got Cubs Out Loud shirt. There's a better looking version of this on the store. Just look for COL Dark, where the mouth is white. Something like that. So, what are you guys wearing?
I do not have anything COL on right now. I found this wonderful shirt through Bear T-shirts, and I really like it, and it feels really great. And it's orange, and it's got a Bear logo.
It does?
Yeah, you can barely see it because of the light, but there you go.
Oh, okay, there. It just looks like a gym sports shirt. So I was like,
yeah, it's very small.
Which I think you can get a COL shirt and that type of shirt too. Maybe. I don't know.
We'll find out.
There's various different styles.
Gary?
Sorry, I was ready to jump into the next part. I'm wearing my milk chocolate hoodie. You know, just the my standard whoopee that I've had for quite some time. So
I'd probably be wearing my hoodie, but I'd probably be rather hot, so I needed something with short sleeves.
To be fair,
actually need to wear. I should probably put on my sleeveless shirt that I got right here because I'm just like so warm.
I'm so hot. There you go. Let me pull out my fan because it's
So now, to be fair, I am wearing a hoodie, but I'm not wearing pants. So it's all about temperature control.
There you go.
Moving on.
All right. Where were we? There was a message that I wasn't able to read. Give me a sec. Are we doing the thing, or are we going to the thing that's right there right now?
Next thing on the dock.
Okay. Anyways, Gary, you, what's been going on over in Facebook land?
We got a new like on Facebook, and we want to thank Michael Drost, I think is how you pronounce his last name, for liking us on Facebook.
Maybe it's just me. I think on Facebook we're starting to plateau.
Hey, that's okay though.
Well, it's interesting that you say that because I've been hearing people talk about that social media, older social media, is becoming less utilized. Like that there's a trend going on that people are stepping back from certain things and getting more engaged in other things. So
what's the new hotness now?
I think people are floating via like the more visuals. So I think they're going more, as much as I'm not a fan of it, like more Instagram,
which is
kind
a
of
Facebook
stuff.
product. So relation.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like that's just something that has been a little bit observed. I think in terms of like tech and that because there's nothing out there really besides Facebook. No one really uses Google Plus as much. Elo or whatever went by the wayside, and anybody that tries to come on the scene to create a new social network kind of thing will have a significant uphill against the juggernaut that is Facebook. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Called to say.
Anyways, Damon, what's been going on over in the YouTubes?
So we have a couple of new subscribers. We have Jeff Levitt and Fred, I'm going to say Homesey. And we also got a YouTube comment on episode 451 from our Oscar Orozco Orejel. And it says, hey there, seems to be a little bit of audio quality problems with the recording.
Yeah, that's a thing.
Yeah,
I think that was when Chester's headset was getting all garbled or whatever, remember? Yeah. And we were all messaging him. So to pull back the curtain for our listeners and those that watch on YouTube, we have different ways of like texting, chatting with each other. And so it's really funny to like, basically we were all like, hey, your headset, your Chester, your headset. But of course he's busy talking. And so like, he's not
I didn't think he realized how bad it was.
Right.
So he just kind of suffered through it until he could fix it.
Well, and then talking. I mean, he disconnected, and then I think he reconnected, and he said like for some reason it was just his headset was being weird. So it wasn't like the battery was running low because it's wireless or whatever. And we can't blame it on Skype. So
this time.
That being said, I just want a quick sidebar to the live chat because I'm seeing this. And AJ, you think you're real funny. So they're all talking about pictures that it didn't happen because I think they're referring to me being pantsless. And now there's talk about Tumblr or Chatterbait. Ha ha ha. Very funny. Y'all think you're so cute. But you are. Jeff, I think we got feedback on our blog.
Yeah. Hey, guys, did you know you could comment on our blog?
What?
Yeah, just like Mr. Glitterbear, aka 2018 Mr. NAB Admirer. James said, "Hey guys, great show as usual. Some things to clarify. Contestants are judged partly on audience reaction, and that we are the entertainment for the weekend. We were told that if we had a fantasy scene, we would get rehearsal time, but when we arrived, it was just a sound check. So we did have a chance to get on the stage and get the feel of it, but there was no run through. As contestants, we were given pink name badges instead of yellow, so everyone knew we were competing. So there was no way a contestant could hide. As for the money issue, I know I spent quite a bit just preparing for NAB, and I've now spent a whole lot more just lining up travel. Also, my tax return is buying my new title vest.
Yay.
For the raffle ticket sales, my drive for selling was to raise as much money as possible. I really wanted our total to be higher than last year. Thanks again for the great show, James.
Nice.
Awesome.
Good information.
So straight from James's keyboard?
No, it's okay. It's an inside scoop. Fresh from the scene. But no, yes, James did win a title. Awesome. We're super proud. And but no, that was interesting. And what I like about what he said, which I'm not nitpicking, but he was like, the badges that they were pink, and that way, I'm looking for where he was talking about that. That people knew that we were competing. And I was like, I didn't know what the colors meant, because nobody handed me a hanky code chart to explain what badges have to run. I'm being silly, but no, I mean, it's like I was asking people questions. Some people's badges had stickers on them. I was like, why do you have a sticker? They're like, I don't know. Why do you have a sticker? I don't know. I don't have a sticker. So I was just like, all right, obviously this means something to someone somewhere. And I thought, and I get it, because organizing committees, maybe it's something for them and it's not really meant for the lay public. But it was just kind of comical to me. So yeah.
Usually the stickers is a maybe not a throwback, but a kind of a thing to like where you go to cons and people, trade stickers and put stickers on stuff. It's a thing. I can't remember it exactly, but it's a thing. Right. No big whoop. I was glad to see the different colors, because sometimes it is one thing to be like, oh, you're a contestant. Okay, cool. Not to mean like, oh, I get to avoid you, but it means like, oh, you're a contestant. No. If you're a contestant, so if you come talking to me about, I'm raffling off shit and I would like you to help. Like, if I don't know you're a contestant, I don't know why should I give you money, honey?
Ooh, good point.
I don't know you. Just put that out there. But it makes sense, and it made sense to me in a long, grand scheme of things, that their badges would be different than others just because it's a easier identifier than just putting contestant on the badge, because sometimes, no offense, you don't see it.
Because they ain't wearing it or rearrange it, and I am just as guilty. Sometimes I don't really want the badge lanyard around my neck, so I will take the lanyard and run it through my belt loop a couple of times to kind of tie it. So I'm still wearing it, but it's just not mid chest or whatever.
Yeah.
That's the only thing I know that's a problem with lanyards, because we have this weird tendency to wear things with stuff on our chest, like symbols or logos or cute little sayings. And then when you wear a lanyard, it covers that shit up and you're kind of like, what the fuck? So yeah. No, it's okay. And yeah, there's all sorts of different things that go on in that case when they put stuff together, but regardless, it was a good fun weekend, and thank you for the feedback, James. Helps clarify some things for us.
Sweet.
All right, and I believe we're just going on to this.
All you gotta do is look for the bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean, bare necessities are Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life.
So, Gary.
Yes.
What specifically are we talking about?
So we're talking about the topic of the show is bear positivity. This stems from a photographic art project that's being done, and we're going to talk about a bunch. But it really spoke to me in the terms of the bear community is about inclusiveness and feeling good about yourself. Yet, I find consistently the thread that ties a lot of us together is that we have issues with ourselves being accepted within ourselves and outside of ourselves. Like, it was part of how we were raised, how we were treated by our local community, by our family, or whatever. And so it got me thinking about like how we view ourselves in a positive light, I think is a significant struggle within the community, because we don't necessarily see ourselves as paragons of sexiness or beauty or whatever. And I'm speaking in general terms. This isn't obviously true for 100% of those that consider themselves part of the bear community, but I think we all have ups and downs and different kind of stuff. In this particular photographic art project that we'll talk about, I think is amazing in its representation of trying to show men's bodies just as they are. And so I thought that was really interesting. And for some reason, while I was putting this together, I was thinking of that song from The Jungle Book, and it really kind of cracked me up. So and so I was like, oh, obviously I should be able to like snag 20 seconds of the song if you're familiar with it. So because every time I hear the song, what do I think of? I think of a tall, big, fat bottomed bear swinging his hips around. So
not necessarily a big fat bottom bear. Bottomed,
big ass.
Basically booty. Basically Ray Smith.
Big.
Oh well.
He's got a booty on it.
Yeah.
He does.
Yeah.
It's a very toned booty.
He's got a big booty.
Anyway,
So I kind of had two questions in regards to this. The first is, if being a part of the bear community is about one's mindset, then how do we go about having a healthy sense of ourself? And part two is it possible to be happy and see what each of us use in a positive light? Because I think we have a tendency within the community to uplift each other a lot and to talk positively about each other. So like, for example, in the COL entourage on the Telegram app communication system that we use, there's a lot of very positive, affirming comments when people post selfies or talk about their daily life and what's happening and some of the struggles that they're facing. And it got me thinking about how like we're there for each other in that aspect, but I kind of wonder, like, is there a point where a switch flips, or is it kind of like a dimmer switch? Like it just keeps increasing, like your own self perspective, your own self-worth, the value? Because I've struggled since elementary school about my sense of self and that, because I've been a fat kid, like fat my whole life pretty much. I was not at birth. I was not like a overweight, I had chubby baby fat, but I was actually slim for a while. And then when I got into probably about first to second grade is when I like started packing pounds on, and then just have been big most of my life. I mean, my weight has fluctuated, and there was a time where I lost a whole bunch of weight. And so, yeah, it kind of makes me wonder about our sense of perspective. So,
yeah. So for me, perspective has always been important. Like I sometimes have had moments where I feel really good about myself, and I've had moments where I don't feel good about myself, physically, mentally, what have you. And it often times, and unfortunately, I've relied on others to give me that affirmation. Like, and that's not always the greatest thing, but sometimes it can be. Like I like you said, Gary, like the bear community does have a tendency to lift each other up in some capacity, not all the time, but there have been a lot of people that will go, "Oh, you're really cute and you're nice and da 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 da." I have some of the greatest comments I've gotten have been from other bears that have like really touched my spirit. One of them was a friend of mine who I was here less than a year, and I had met this guy, and he said, "You have a really great aura." He didn't give it. And to me, it was beyond like you're physically attractive or I think you're hot or whatever. It was he was like just what you, the energy that you give off was amazing. To kind of put it in perspective, I don't know if anyone knows the Marvel character Megan. She was the empathic wife of Captain Britain. But anyway, when she first showed up on the scene, she was ugly. And the reason she was quote unquote ugly was because the people around her, she was a metamorph, and the people around her were giving off these fears because they knew she was a mutant because she was born with fur on her body, which was because she was born in the winter, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so everything that they said reflected onto her, and she reflected it out by physically changing her body. But there was a blind mutant who saw her, quote unquote, and said that she was beautiful, she was radiant. And she didn't believe it until she finally heard that, and there was a whole other thing, and she changed into someone else's perception of her, but it was a very beautiful person kind of thing. So I always relate to that, is that sometimes you have to find that inner beauty and go from there. And that has helped me in a lot of ways because I tend to, like I said, I tend to not do things because I don't necessarily feel as involved, quote unquote, or not as involved, not involved is not the word, but as attractive to the bear community. But I still do things. I will do a contest. I will go out there and I will present myself. And the main reason I do it is because this is not for them. This is for me. Like, I feel beautiful. I feel I belong. So I'm going to try my best to keep putting myself out there. And damn the consequences, you know? So that's where I kind of find that light, is that instead is I try to balance it out where, yes, there are people that find me interesting and find me attractive, but I need to also find that interest and attraction in myself. Does that make sense?
No, it does. I thought your use of the metaphor about the mutants in that was interesting, because there's been talk about how X-Men, the mutants, like that a lot of gay, like a lot of LGBTQ individuals connect with that comic series because of the whole hiding your true identity storyline concepts. And so, yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said for the environment that you're in and the places, not only the places, but just the people that you're surrounded by. So like in the live chat, they're talking about that, you know, that experience cannot necessarily be a positive one, that sometimes you feel it's the opposite, and that you feel that there's a lot of judgment going on because you're not X factor enough. You're not fat enough. You're not hairy enough. You're not tall enough. You're not old enough. You're not gray enough. You're whatever. And I mean, I faced that in the gay community when I first came out, before I even knew the bear community. And I found that very interesting that this is my personal philosophy. I think that we're so displeased with ourselves and we haven't accepted ourselves that we project that out. So it's this really nasty behavior pattern that you build in which you say things or treat people a certain way because you're struggling within yourself. It's kind of it's a parallel track, I think, to this philosophy or this theory that sometimes studies prove that the biggest homophobes actually are closeted. You know, it's this like weird twist of how the mind works, that you treat people a certain way because of, you know, whatever. And it is a struggle because you can give all the platitudes, you can say all the things that you want about, you know, to, you know, pay them bitches no mind, and what they have to say about you isn't important. And if you're not their cup of tea, well then fuck them. You know, you can say all that stuff, but it is a real, I think, challenge to be okay with who you are and find that, I guess, that centered kind of aspect of yourself to be like, this is who I am, this is the way I am, and just take it or leave it. And then to carry that forward.
Yeah, that's the thing that has always been, like, the one thing I will say I've experienced in and seen at like bear events and bear runs and just in general is that I know it sounds weird, but I've always had this mental thing of there's someone for everyone. Like you are someone's, it's been said before, you are someone's like reason to fap. You are someone's reason to jerk off. Stop. But that's always there. Jim's over there. But that's something that has been out there that always is. There's always going to be someone that will find you, or someones that find you attractive, interesting, sexy, whatever. And it's just a matter of, you may not always see it, but it's sometimes a matter of seeing it in yourself to realize that there's going to be someone out there. You just have to you're not going to always run into them. If, no offense, Tumblr is any indication of, what's out there. There's a bunch of people that show pictures of all of their body, and there's someone reblogging that shit somewhere, like 99% of the time. You may not get, hundreds or thousands of people, clicking that and reblogging that shit, but you'll get somebody. You'll get someone. Yeah, that's just my...
Right. And that's one of the interesting things, Damon, is that I came to the bear community at the end of 99 going into the millennium. And so now we're, 19 years later. I mean, for me, it's coming on 20 years of the bear community alone. It hasn't been until like the past year or two that I'm feeling more and more of myself, like acceptance in terms of being okay with who I am and that kind of stuff. And I know that might seem a little weird to say or for people to hear, but the reality is that, every second of every minute of every hour of every day, you've got your own stuff that is going on inside you, inside your head. And so Tumblr can be great. It can be great to fap to. It can be great like as a, fantasy kind of, exploration. It can also be affirming to you. And at the same time, it can also be a bit of a struggle because how realistic is it? When you meet people in person and they actually interact with you, they have a conversation with you, they make eye contact, they actually physically touch you. And I don't necessarily mean, brown chicken, brown cow, but that it's an affirmation that's not the same as what you can get online. Yeah. But that being said, the visual medium can be really, really powerful. And that's one of the things that's been coming along slowly for us, I think, in the community. I feel over the past maybe 5 years, we're becoming more and more known in broader circles. So I remember when everybody was like, oh my God, there's a bear on Two Broke Girls or whatever. And so like everybody kind of freaks out about that. And then, Will and Grace have a bear on their show. And I'm using air quotes on purpose because I kind of raise an eyebrow at that. Because I think it was Hollywood's decision to put out a representation in a certain aspect. And I'm not trying to gawk anybody's yum, but I was like, okay. Yeah. So, and that's what's really hard though, because I was just having this conversation recently with someone about how one thing cannot be the penultimate representation of everything else.
Yeah.
And therein lies a problem because, like, to say that this person, even though they're a celebrity or whatever, is the definition or the person that everybody looks to help define a community can be very dangerous. It's kind of, that's like saying that your senator in government, your state senator, represents all their people. Well, okay, politically, like legally, however you want to, yes, they represent them, but to say that their individual views represent every single person, probably not. They have their own personal views about certain stuff. So that's what I find interesting, is to look at how we've grown in kind of a visual medium, in terms of like entertainment, people being out and movies and TV shows and that kind of stuff.
and the visual medium is becoming sort of the way that people are showing off, their positivity, their self belief in themselves and what have you. When I know you posted these articles and this arrested movement segment as part of this thing, and I read it earlier today, and I really am astonished by it. I'm liking what they've done and liking where the different body types that are being shown, and one of the things that was said in particular was where this concept came from was that the photographer was listening to or heard of a study being done in Japan where they were taking water essentially and giving it some positive feedback and then some negative feedback and then freezing it, and how some water, the water that was getting all the positive stuff, looked very like crystal and what have you, whereas the water that was getting negative effect looked like cancer. And it was just reflecting that onto the fact that our bodies are 70% water, and how the negative feedback and negative imagery that we receive every day is impacting us. I really, really love that concept.
Right. So to kind of explain, a lot of this we're going to make reference to a photographic project that's happening called the Arrested Movement. And the photographer has been actually doing photography for about 20 years. And he decided to do a personal project. He's done a lot of like professional projects for contract for hire for different things. And one of the things that you're mentioning, Damon, is that he makes this reference to Japanese author and researcher Masaru Emoto claims that human consciousness has effect on things to the molecular structure of water. I read a little bit further about Masaru because I was really intrigued by this. There's a lot of criticism about his stuff. His stuff couldn't be replicated in studies. That said, though, the concept that in essence that everything's interconnected and everything is affected by everything else is really, I think, what comes at the core. And so the photographer really, I read a couple different articles and some background in that, and he's been through some personal issues like we all have. And he, spent some time doing some research and decided that, he's going to focus a lot more on his own well-being and meditation and that kind of stuff. And he happened to Anthony Manieri, I think is how you pronounce his last name, the photographer. He decided to make a project based off of one picture that he took of a gentleman that is a dancer who I believe is over in London. And they had been doing a whole bunch of other pictures for, I think, something different. And then there's one last picture. He said he asked the subject to get naked and then to do like a running leap. And that's this one photograph that's the top of the gaystarsnews.com article. And everything that we're talking about will be linked. So if you go to cubsoutloud.com for the blog, you'll be able to click through and read the articles and see all these great pictures. So this amazing black and white photograph is of like a human body in motion. But I mean, the guy is beautiful to look at, but it's just such a well-composed photograph. And so Anthony, the photographer, decided to experiment sort of in a way and say, I think there's something I'd like to like pursue on this. What he didn't expect was the response, though. And he's based in Toronto. And he was like, I think it was like a Craigslist ad or something. He was like, hey, I need models. I've rented a space. So like, this is kind of what's involved, men and their stuff, and so he turns around and has this crazy reaction of all these men, including men that drove like 5 hours through a snowstorm for this first photo session. And so what he does is all of the individuals for the project that choose to be photographed, he works with them and gets them to do dancer type movements. So it's about movement of the body while he's taking photographs. So they're not just standing there like portraiture, they're actually in the midst of doing something. So some people are leaping, some people are leaning, some people are doing gestures. It's just really, really evocative. And I love the fact that he, thought this little thing where he might get, maybe up to 10 people to be invested in a one-day, thing turned out to be over 30, and it took 2 full days, a 20-hour shoot for him to do this. And then people found out about it, and it's mostly in the bear community that he's gotten a lot of response, which Anthony is a member of the bear community. He recognizes he's gay, and he's a heavier set guy, and he's bearded, and he's actually really cute.
Adorable.
And so, but he has these like amazing pictures, and then if you get to see the YouTube promotional video, it's pretty evocative as well. But it just kind of really got
uncensored version. That's just me.
Yeah. Well, so what's interesting though is a lot of these photographs are expected to be turned. He's going to do a traveling exhibit, from what I understand. He's also going to create a book, or actually now he thinks it's going to be 2 volumes of books based on the number of pictures in it, and he's going to be traveling around the world. And taking photographs. So I'm looking at the website. So, for example, he's already taken pictures in London, Toronto, and Montreal. He just finished LA, which I'll talk about in a moment. In Canada, he's expected to still do, I think, if his website's accurate, it's Halifax, Ottawa, and Vancouver. And then in Europe, he still plans to go to Hamburg, Germany, Madrid, Spain, Paris, France, and Rome, Italy. And then in the U.S., I believe he still has Atlanta, Dallas, Miami, New York City, Phoenix, and Seattle to get to. And this is just like kind of the current list. It's been expanding and growing. He spent his own personal money and investment and time and effort to do the project. So that's where the book and the exhibit stuff is really important, because that can at least try to give him some recoup of his own personal expense that he's put on it.
Yeah.
But that's where I think you'll be able to see the uncensored. So in some of the pictures, the bodies, the positions, you don't get to see genitalia. But it doesn't. Well, I mean, the photography is amazing.
Yeah.
And so to me, like, yeah, there's a couple of them where, the pervy part of me is like, I want to see more. But at the same time, in terms of art, though, I'm just like, wow, this stuff's amazing.
It's really good stuff. It's really good work. I'm like I said, I'm really happy or astonished by what he has created and the response that he got from people overall. I think what was the article mentioned? Something along the lines of there are people that just wanted pictures because they knew they just wanted a picture of themselves for something to kind of remember themselves by, or mentally, or something along those lines. Hold on. I'll have to look at it, but
the majority of their answers were basically the same. This series wasn't erotic or exploitive. It's an artistic narrative of self-love and self-empowerment, and it was something completely out of their own comfort zone, meaning the people that chose to be photographed. And they believe that the message behind it could help others, if not themselves. And these are the initial models that decided to be involved. Well, and I guess it's probably true for all of them that have chosen to be in it.
There it is. He says, quote, "Don't get me wrong. Some guys come in because they want to be photographed nude, but the majority that come in, they're coming in for the message. It sounds stupid, but it helps change one person's perception of themselves. Then that's great." Yeah. I love that. Yeah.
And he said, the project seems to have hit a nerve. He said, "I've received messages from people all over North America and Europe, some from the Middle East, Australia, South America, inquiring about it and sharing their stories and support and their willingness to be involved." And for him, it's been pretty humbling. So now he's got more, that he's trying to line up. And that's why I was rattling off all the cities a moment ago about what he's planning to do with it. And the reason why I became aware of this, though, is because we are, I want to say, digitally connected to people who have been involved. The most famous, I want to say, and this isn't a measurement, but Colby Jensen, the adult film actor, has been photographed. And then people that we're connected to in our, 3 degrees of bear separation? 2 degrees. Most of them notably are over on the West Coast. And that's how I found out, because the LA shoot just happened in the past 10 days, I want to say. And so West Cub, who is part of the duo, he and Brian Hill of the former 619 Bearcast, they put on Western Exposure, which is the clothing or nudie, whatever you want to call it, bear run weekend in Palm Springs. West Cub's done it. Dave Cobb from Think Well, who's kind of part of the group that's known out in LA as a group of them, Matt Rose. And I'm connected to all of these kind of bears in that area. And our very own J-Mo has actually done it. Now, I only have 2 links for West Cub and Colby. West Cub put on his Tumblr pictures of the Mac computer screen that is either probably using Adobe Lightroom or something like that to show. So they are censored and it's not, the actual photograph, but that's because it's art and, Anthony as a photographer still has more to do before they become publicly available. And I had reached out to Dave Kopp because I thought I had seen a picture that he had posted, and I asked him, I said, hey, did I see that you're involved in the project? And he's like, yeah, but because the pictures haven't been officially released yet, we were asked to not, post, I don't want to say high res, better quality, but basically that's the whole thing. It's kind of like, and so his were, I think, briefly sort of available. And then J-Mo also confirmed that he too went and did the photo shoot out in LA.
Nice.
Wow. So I'm super excited about this concept of this project. So in the links, we've got 2 articles. One's from fstoppers.com, which I believe is a camera enthusiast-based type website. The article title is Taking a Leap for Male Nude Project Promoting Body Positivity. And then and that one just came out on March 9th. And it's a really good back and forth discussion about what Anthony's been working on and doing. And then the other one, like we already mentioned, was from Gay Star News. And then I've also put in a link to the Facebook page if you want to follow. There's a YouTube video, an official website.
Yeah.
So, but it got me thinking in terms of how great this project is and how people are responding to it. And then it made me wonder, like, would I be willing to do it or not? How do I feel about that? There's a couple of pictures that have been released publicly that are very evocative to me in terms of some of the body types. I'm like, like that's, I don't want to say standard, but I was not surprised to see them as part of these articles or on the website. There are 2 very specific pictures though that stand out to me. One of them is a gentleman of color who is a big boy in terms of physical size. If I had to describe him, I think the perfect word is Rubenesque.
Yeah.
So if you know about art and like kind of that historical perspective about women being very large, and it was considered like sexually alluring. It was a part of a time in our history, specifically from Europe, in which like your size was relative to your status. So, if you were part of like royalty or near royalty or whatever, like you had the means to have, lots of food and be, you didn't have to labor and all that kind of stuff. And that's where some of that comes from. And you may have heard like the description of Zoftig, basically like a very large bodied individual. And so there's this gentleman who's kind of doing this pose with his hands and his arms above his head is leaned over that I was like, whoa, that's wild and beautiful, but unexpected because most of the others are not, so to speak, of that body shape. And then there's another one in the series that I really love that I also think is unexpected, which is a gentleman who has crutches. I don't know what his condition is per se, but I think of my uncle who has polio and has had to deal with that. And so he has crutches to move around. And what I loved about what Anthony's doing is that basically anybody, like all walks of life. So this isn't a hand-picked, curated, like edited kind of situation, I think, which is what we're probably much more attuned to, or I don't know. Maybe we're just expecting people to kind of fuck around with that kind of stuff and be like, oh, well, this, and this is what I'm really going for. And Anthony, on the other hand, just seems to be like, listen, like, I know what it's like to have issues with your self-worth and to be a bigger person. Because in one of the articles, he makes reference that, you know, he had some personal stuff that he was struggling with, and he took some personal time off and ended up putting weight on, and that really kind of affected him as to how he feels about himself. So I find it really interesting that this is all this culmination, all these different things that are coming together for him, and he's decided to do this project. And I think it's fucking great.
Yeah. I hope he gets. I know that, and I know he's been doing it for a while without, you know, any financial assistance, which is, you know, again, in and of itself, more attributing to like the art and whatever. But I do hope that he does keep moving with it, and he does get something back from it. The movement and the message is very important and very beautiful and very touching. So I'm loving what he's done. And if he continues, by all means, yes. But if it can't continue, what he has done so far has been out of this world, like wonderful. And I think it can only keep going from there.
Right. Mm-hmm. So this is what this photographic project from Anthony is what prompted this whole concept of the topic for today's show. The pictures are great. It's really good. I think it delivers a great message. So to take it back to kind of what we started talking about, though, do you think this will have the impact we would desire it to in terms of like internal like acceptance and how we feel, you know, about our own bare identities? And that may be an unfair question to ask, because that's not, because I don't think that's the purpose of this project. Like, I don't think Anthony's doing this to be like, you should be proud of how you see yourself. Like, I think he's doing it just purely for the documentation.
You know, I think the fact that there were so many people that wanted to do it, and thinking about it myself, I would consider it. It's reflecting back to me that if, you know, if someone like this could do it, why can't I? You know, why can't I see myself the way these people are, this photograph sees them, and these very beautiful, very differently sized and differently shaped men can put themselves out there and take pictures of themselves when maybe they don't necessarily always feel that they're attractive or beautiful or, you know, what have you. I could see myself doing that, and I could see where that could potentially lead down that wonderful path. I hope that it would. I'm not saying that it won't, but I feel like it would take more, just a little bit more than this. Like, for me personally, I love it. I love the idea behind it. It's giving me a little bit of good vibes to maybe do something else or keep going, or, you know, work on keeping myself feeling positive about myself. But is that all it is? Well,
there's kind of a way that you can kind of express your own body positivity. I believe it has been done by many people, including some of our favorites like Tibbers. And who else? Jade. I think was doing it, and
are you talking about,
actually James, Mr. Glitter Bear himself, has been doing it. I'm talking about the Thirst Trap Challenge. I mean, it's not as artistic as the Arrested Movement pictures are. But, I mean, part of the point of it is Facebook appropriate, or, like, you know, kind of like that nudging the line, Facebook appropriate pictures, and supposed to be kind of like promoting body positivity.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting that we're talking about that is someone who's we consider part of our entourage did it, and I was having a discussion with them about this idea and their take on it because they felt that the origination or the idea behind it, especially the hashtag about it being thirst trap, is that it's meant to be like focusing on the physicality and the sexual nature of things. And they don't see themselves necessarily that way, or didn't necessarily want to take that path. So they did things a little differently. And I kind of asked them about it because I thought, why? It seems like you're putting a lot of focus on how you're not playing by the rules, which I don't know if there really were rules. I think it was purely just 5 days of you taking photographs and then tagging other people, like I believe it's a different person every day. So like over your 5 days, you tagged 5 different people because you got tagged by someone. So
by the way, no one tagged me because I'm just not going to do it.
Well, it's funny because I thought about that because there's a part of me that's been like, I'll own it now. I'm like, I wonder if anyone's going to tag me. And that made me very anxious because I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do this.
Not that we're against what they're like trying
people
to
are doing, yeah,
and everything. It's more of like the work, trying to figure out the right picture.
Well,
do I have time? Do I really want to take that time?
Well, and that's one of the things that I think, some of the participants have found. Some have found it easy and some have not. Those that have found it easy were those that probably get photographed a lot. And I'm not saying that they're selfie whores, but they may be out in public more. Their friends may take pictures of them on the regular. So it might be easier for them to be able to be like, ding, 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 here's my 5. Where others don't really have that many pictures of themselves or don't see themselves that way. And so there's a lot of time and effort to put into controlling what gets out there.
Yeah.
And that's not a criticism because I know I sure as hell would do it. I've done it.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you have to, like, the thirst trap for me was, I thought about myself and I was like, if someone had, I would consider it, but I wasn't necessarily going to make a big deal if someone did. Like, I would consider it. I would consider it, but I don't know if I would necessarily do it. For me, it's a matter of, I don't really have a whole lot of, no offense, filters and stuff on my Facebook. So it's gonna go to like everyone that's a friend of mine on Facebook, and it's like that means like family members and what have you. And I'm like,
well,
yeah, that may be a little.
I don't think the rules say it has to go to everybody on Facebook.
I agree.
You could create that list. Like I got my bear list. I can post it into the bear list. So I
agree to that. It's just a matter of, do I want to do it that way? It's for me. It's just like you said, like Jeff, you were mentioning, like it's a lot of thought that would have to go into it, and it's, do I really want to go through all of that just to do it? Maybe again, but I agree that I like that. The thing that I liked most about those who were doing it was that I was seeing parts of them, not just physically, but for a lot of people, it was about. They were talking about like things in their lives that they've always been excluded or felt excluded because of the way that they look, and telling their stories. And that was the part that I was enjoying, was that people were talking about how, well, when I never felt, one of the example was, I never felt I was really part of the leather community because I've always been considered a bigger guy, and then realizing that couldn't be further from the truth. That was one of the things that it touched me because I'm a bigger guy and I'm in the leather community. And it's like, it's always been that thing that you always hear or see. You see, when you look at like, leather, you see like Tom of Finland, you see those guys that are, built and whatever. And, and that's what you see as the leather community more often than not. But that's just, a little fraction of what the community is. And by people getting out there and actually sharing their stories and sharing these pictures and this thirst trap or whatever, it allowed me to see a little bit more of their stories and their perspectives.
Well, and I think that's an important point about how each population, each subgroup attempts to put its best foot forward. And I'm using air quotes about best foot forward because when I think about leather events, I do not see large built people primarily in those images. I see very glossied, more often than not, light-skinned individuals who have perfect leather attire, like probably no complexion issues, no teeth issues. You know what I mean? Like, I hate to say it, but it's very controlled, very manufactured. Yet, going to Claw for the past 2 years, I'm like, look at all these motherfuckers. Like, there are men and women of every age, you know, gender identity, like, you know, ethnicity, everything, just kind of running around. And it still kind of stops me. Like, I was at MAL, and even though it's just the vendor mart is what we're going for, I'm paying attention to the boot black. And there are some people that I'm kind of like, look at this stuff. Like, I was excited to see a small grouping of women of color that were hanging out together. And I was kind of like, look at them. Like, because I don't see that often. And it's a shame that I don't see that. But I had to go to basically a kind of almost a regional / national level event in order to be able to be like, yes, there are sisters amongst us who are involved into kink and that kind of stuff, you know. And I briefly talked to one of them, you know, and just kind of more of a kind of, hey, hi kind of thing. And I remember they had a specific shirt with a print on it, and I thought it was really cool because when you paid close attention, there was something specific about the print. It wasn't just a, you know, kind of lay passing thing. And so I complimented, and they were like, oh yeah, I really like this. Thank you. And, you know, that's all I said. But it was just kind of one of this brief moment where I was kind of like, yeah, there's a lot that's out there that makes up the whole, but we don't really do that. We have a tendency to like take a slim slice of the whole pie of the population and put that out there. And that's one of the things that I sort of pay attention to more often than not now. And maybe it's just age and wisdom and experience that I'm really catching all the marketing that's being done, whether it be, no offense, commercials and podcasts, or, you know, other things that are happening. You're kind of like, there's something about like what's being projected, what's being put out there. And so I think it's fair when people criticize and they say, I don't see myself represented, or, this is a little speculative. Like, how perfect is this XYZ thing or whatever it is?
Yeah.
And that's one of the challenges, I think, about any community. It's not just the bear community, but because we, you know, are a podcast for this community, that's why I was like, what exactly how do we feel about this concept of bear positivity? And I think there's something to be said about the lip service issue. Like, you can be supportive and say all these polite things, but are you really willing to walk it? You know, and say that kind of stuff, because we know individuals that have struggled in their own life with decisions on whether or not to continue living, whether or not to change their identity, whether or not they had any placement in any community because of how they were treated. And now we see them and they're really flourishing because they kind of had to meander and wander through. And as, you know, RuPaul tends to say, you need to find your tribe. You need to figure out, where is my place? Another way to kind of look at it is like, who is my family? Where do I feel that I have a thing, that I am accepted? And within that population, there's all sorts of people. There are people that are very, like, you know, body positive, very sex positive, very image positive. And then there are people who are like, no.
Yeah.
Me? No.
And,
like, you know.
And you know, to each I always say to each their own. I think one of the things that I have had to deal with or realize is that everyone else has a different path. And like, there are people who you can look at them and think they are the most beautiful person in the world, and you can tell them that, and they don't see it themselves. They don't see it, and I find that to be sad, but then I realize that's something that they're going to have to realize, to understand that, you know, you're a beautiful person, and until you see that yourself, you're not going to be able to allow others to, you know, let other people in to see, to, yeah. So,
and that's something to be said in a lot of different areas. I heard most of my life a universal message that was phrased all sorts of different ways, but what it came down to was, you will believe it Like, you will own it when you believe it.
Mm-hmm.
So you will be this when you decide you are in alignment with that or you agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think, what all of us are just, that's part of what the universal challenge is, you know, and just a human experience is to be like, do you accept yourself? Do you know where you are? Are you happy with that? You know, and how do you see your placement? So in terms of, you know, this project, I'm really super excited and positive about it. I'd love to circle back around again and talk more about it when we get more developments on it. The, you know, journalist in me was kind of like, oh my God, it would be amazing if we could interview him. But I don't know. We can see what happens, you know.
Yeah. Hey,
many things
so
come from.
I got a question for you too, and for myself. Although I already know my answer. Let's say you're at an event, or you're out. You've got plenty of time, nothing planned, or anything, and this guy comes up to you and says, "Hey, want to do a shoot?" Would you do it?
Shoot of what?
Yeah. Like, do they have a camera on them, or are they like
just the same as West Cub JMO and everything? He takes you to a he'll take you to a studio and do one of these shoots. Would you do one of these shoots?
I got candy in a van.
Sorry.
I mean, really hot daddy bear.
What you're describing and what is going on. If someone were to,
not those exact words, I'm sure he'd probably be more eloquent and everything, and kind of say, "Hey, I'm doing this thing. Would you like to do a shoot?" I'm just shortening it to, "Hey, do you want to do a shoot?"
Because to me,
like right now, let's go.
Like the event, like, okay, let me put it like this:
you have nothing. You have nothing planned. It's fine. You have plenty of time to do whatever you want.
I get what you're saying. I think I would. It would be a matter of, like, I need to see some credentials or something before I agree to do anything, because I don't want this.
You have seen this guy in the video. You know who he is. I keep forgetting his name. That's why I'm never saying his name.
Anthony.
If it was this man, yes.
Anthony himself.
If he himself, yes. But the way you described it threw me off.
It was because I couldn't remember his name, okay?
No,
so take that out of the equation. We're just talking
Everybody
about...
calm the fuck
Anthony
down.
comes up to
Chill,
you and asks you if you want to
children.
do one of these shoots. Would you, if you had plenty of time, there is nothing planned, would you do it?
I would attempt, yes.
Here's my thing. If Anthony was to approach me and ask me about doing it, as much as I'm supportive of him doing it, I would probably take convincing. I'm going to own that I'm not someone to leap right in and do it. I think, and this is not fair of me to speak on his behalf because he's not here, but my guess is that Chester would do it, just would do it. If he approves of the project and the concept and that idea, he probably wouldn't need convincing or hand holding or whatever. He'd be like, "Yep, okay, let's just go." Like,
yeah,
like, let me take my clothes off and you take pictures. And that isn't meant to be rude or anything, but Chester's a photographer, so I think he has a very different perspective and experience on that. Where I, on the other hand, like, I had Chester do photo shoot stuff, but he was like, "Well, what did you want done?" And I was like, I don't know. I hadn't quite thought about it, but I know that I'm forcing myself to do it because I feel I need some stuff. So I had a bunch of headshots done, but he didn't know necessarily until he asked the question, like, what I was planning on doing or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, I think of Carlos from Chicago that Chester, well, I think Chester also knows him, but Damon, you and I know, that does photography. Carlos very much specifically focuses on bigger guys, and he tends to do a lot of non-planned, at least I don't think, like composed images. They're very much like snapshots. What's that?
Candid.
Yeah, they're very candid, in the moment life shots of the gentlemen that he are his friends or that he meets or knows. And that's a little bit of what this photography style reminds me of, except for this is obviously composed, and it's done for black and white. And I love the fact that this is done in black and white, because it makes you focus differently on the image in terms of what the shot is showing you. And I think it kind of strips away a certain level of intimacy.
Yeah.
So that's where, like, there's a part of me that's like, yeah, I would be interested and I'd be willing to do it, but I know enough about myself that I don't have the most gleaming personal, like, internal self-image that I would have to kind of battle through a lot of the thoughts about, you know, do I really want to do it, and how public is this, and who's going to see it, and where's it going to go, and da da da. So that's where part of me, when you were asking the question, Jeff, I was like, I bet you if I was with those guys out in LA, and there's a bunch of them, they all seem to travel together as a group. I don't know if all of them were in the photograph, but they were all friends. Like, timeline wise, I was kind of picking up like this pocket of people, this grouping kind of seemed to all be in the same place at the same time. So I'm gonna bet they probably all were at the warehouse when the photo shoot was happening.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know yet if I don't know all of them, so I don't know yet if all of them were photographed, but it's quite possible. If I was with that group of people, I probably would be much more at ease, because I would be like, okay, if all these bitches gonna do it, like, you know, then you might be willing to. But to just be randomly approached one-on-one out of the blue, that's not my style. I'm not a leap in the fire kind of individual. I'm way too cautious and OCD and analytical, and I got to think things through and figure it out, which is why some people like to have fun with me and just like impromptu do shit to see how I react, because they know it.
So if it's something more like he sends an email, say, hey, you're interested in this, this is what we would do, kind of giving you more below down and everything, then in the future, maybe not right then and there, maybe you would do it.
Right.
More likely.
I would, like, for example, if Anthony were to say be coming to NAB next year, and he was like, hey, I'm going to be at North American Bear, I'm looking for models for my Arrested Movement project, and gave some details about what he was going to be doing and what it entails and, you know, what it's about, you know, here's a form, fill it out, and, you know, we'll see how it goes. Not we'll see how it goes, but, you know, I'll work on scheduling time for everyone. I would definitely, like, at least sign up. I mean, not necessarily, like, you know, it would be a matter again of, you know, like timing and whatever, but it would be really cool to kind of, oh, that's something that would be really interesting, because one, he's going to be there, and I know he's going to be there. Your scenario, for example, I would be taken back a little bit, but I would probably still consider it, because I knew who he was. I knew what's going on. I have an idea.
I think
it would be
the way I was trying to explain it was like there was nothing that would be like in your way of doing it. Like, you have nothing to do.
Mm-hmm.
You literally have nothing to do. You have the time, the availability. He's there. That you could do it without having to worry about any other outside factor,
right? And that's
really into it. So I probably said it really not eloquently, but that was the point I was making. And
right, I think, Jeff, what you were trying to say is that there are no outside obstacles or hurdles or factors.
So if you're like an event, it's like, oh well, I've got this class that I'm going to, or no, there's a party here or something like that.
Right,
but you don't have to worry about that.
Right. So instead, what you're saying, Jeff, is in your example, you're trying to say it's the only blockages are internal.
Right.
Yeah. It's about whether or not you really want to do it, how you feel about doing it, and that kind of stuff. And I get that. And still, I'm kind of in the camp with Damon. I'd be like, yeah, I'd probably sign up or whatever. Whether or not I would do it in the moment, I don't know. Because I think there's what has to happen is probably you just have to throw a caution to the wind kind of thing. Like, you need to take the leap of faith and be like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. And I've been known, I've done it in my life. I'm just not, that's not my start stance. Like, I don't start the race in the stance most people do. I probably am leaning back or taking a step back and look at everybody else and trying to figure out what I want to do from there.
Yeah.
So my answer,
your answer,
my answer would be, I would totally do it. But here's my reasoning. Is because while I think I look cute like here, Like just like head. I just realized you guys can't see me.
Yeah.
But like facially speaking, I think I'm adorable, and like if I'm wearing certain clothes, I feel really adorable and look good. When I'm naked, I really hate the way I look. I'm too lazy to do anything about it. And the thing is, while I always think in my head is I may not necessarily like exactly how I'm looking, but I'm not really feeling like taking the energy to try to change it in any way. I accept for what I am, whether I like it or not, and just hope that other people like it, because that's the more important thing to me is that if I'm trying to be attractive while naked, as long as the other person is, I don't really care in that. So I would like somebody, one of the things that I would probably want to be taking out of this is I want somebody who can show me that beauty, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I need to see how other people would see me as beautiful, because I don't necessarily think body-wise I'm beautiful, if that makes any sense.
Right. It makes perfect sense to me, because this project is about vulnerability. These images are about men who are willing to put themselves in a space and in a time to be like captured, like photographically, in theory, forever in this one moment, you know. And it's like, are you willing to do that? That's why those two pictures I pointed out really stood out to me against the rest. You know, while some of them, you know, were leaping and this and that, like, yeah, some of it is sort of, you know, cool in a, I don't want to say acrobatic, but you know what I mean? Like in a physical way, they're kind of cool. But then there were the two where they were just not what I was expecting out of this project. And the first one, when I was scrolling through that article, was the gentleman with the crutches. And I was like, wow, like that's very real. Like that's because if he could stand there without the crutches, that's an option that you don't have to show that about yourself. And then the other one, I was like, wow, like, that's a guy who looks sometimes like days where I feel that way, meaning I feel that I'm very large physically, and I was really surprised and like caught off guard, but then pleased about the fact that someone has that much, I guess, nerve or self-awareness or whatever it was in the moment to decide to have the picture taken. You know, and since Anthony's used it, my presumption is they haven't changed their mind. Like, they haven't gone back and been like, you know, listen, I changed my mind. I don't really watch it. You know, I don't know if that's legally a part of what this project allows for, but I would like to think as a photographer, like, he would take that into account as an artist and be like, okay, you know, like, there's a certain point where you cross no return. So, yeah. So I don't know. I think it's pretty interesting. I really do want to see more out of this. I would love to go see it when it becomes an exhibit or whatever, and to go travel around. But we'll kind of keep tabs on it and update as things come along.
If he ever makes the coffee table book, I would love a copy. Although hopefully I can either afford it or somebody is nice and purchases it for me. Ding.
It would be cool if everybody who gets photographed that's in the book gets a free copy of the book.
Oh.
There's a part of me that's kind of surprised he hasn't done a fundraising campaign thing. Like, not to start, but now that it's gotten to where it is, there's a part of me that's kind of like, dude, I think you could totally raise some mad money for this concept.
GoFundMe, something along those lines. Yeah, it would be. I mean, again, it would be up to him to do it. I think he would get a good amount. Like you said, I think he would get a good amount. Just because of all the people that are already involved, and just those that would want to do it for the future.
Right. Cool.
All right.
You ready to move on?
With that, we are. Oh, wrong screen. There. Go in here. Even though we couldn't see it, let's now talk about Dick. So I'm calling this lounging.
Hey.
Wow.
Kind of like posing.
Mm-hmm.
Body positivity-ish type thing, kind of, sort of.
I like the look. Or the overall.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah, he's very much looking like the daddy biker, like sir kind of thing. He's just wearing what look like red swim trunks, sitting on a Chase lounge outside with a blue towel behind him and sunglasses. But what I can't help stop focusing on is on his right, presumably his right arm, which is bent with his hand behind his head. There's a key ring, an elastic coil key ring that's wrapped around his arm. That typically indicates that you were at a gym or a sauna, a club, a location of some sort where you have a temporary accommodation style because
a resort,
you would carry
a hotel,
your key with you.
And it's just handy dandy.
Yeah, so I'm kind of like, where you at? Like, because there's nothing quite obvious right away. I don't know how many places pass out blue towels for their property, and so yeah, it could be anywhere, I guess.
Yeah, I'm assuming like a hotel or something. Although it's weird because I almost feel like it's a house just because the walkway and the door behind it doesn't.
It could be a type
be
of house.
Well, right. It could be a location with a little, like lots of little haciendas or whatever.
Yeah. It could be, I mean, there
could be
are
a resort.
Yeah. There's several possibilities that it could be. The first one that comes to mind is the one that Gary was hinting at quite heavily. But again, I could, no offense, the fact that he's wearing shorts kind of, they could be taking me thinking that he's more at like at a resort or like hostel or something along those lines where maybe he is only there temporarily.
Do hostels have pools?
Some do. So depending on the hostel. Anyway, but it's just it's given the idea of he's not there permanently. He's only visiting. So, but anyway,
and I would be happy to visit with him.
Exactly.
Me too.
All right, Damon, your choice.
So this one is I titled it "Aaron Hanging in the Sling," but it's not the Aaron that we know from past podcasts. This is
yeah, I'm glad you said that.
This is Aaron, I believe, from Men of the Den.
Yes.
And it's just a real, I mean, he's fucking hot. And this is a really, really great photo set of him enjoying himself in his sling. Or I don't know if it's his sling, but a sling.
Looking more manly than he is in his videos.
Yeah. But not only that, he's also he's given me like, he's giving me come fuck daddy. He's giving me come fuck me daddy eyes is what he's giving me. So, I don't know him that well. I would like to get to know him.
Well, you know where he is, kind of.
Yeah.
Honestly.
And I know where he'll be probably, but that's
Tidal
the
wave?
whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I was like, there's something about this set of pictures. Like, I think I've seen them before, and I have, because when I clicked through, I was like, oh, yeah, I already heard of it. And I got to the source, and they were posted July of 2014. So Aaron's gotten a little older, because I'm pretty sure, because I was like, there's something a little bit different about him. And I was like, oh, yeah, he's looking a little more cubbish in these pictures. And that's not a complaint of any sort. So I think he's kind of grown a little bit more into his daddy dumb, so to speak, if you want to call it that. Since then, but he's still smoking cigars and posting pictures of himself online, so you just have to go looking.
Yeah, totally fine. I don't. He looks good then. He looks good now. He's definitely tripping many triggers.
Yeah, that picture is from July of 2014.
For something more recent, Damon, if
Oh,
you check your personal Telegram, you'll see what I just sent you. Anyways. Anyways. You're welcome. So for my Tumblr, speaking of artistry, photography, I titled it Some Studio Shots. So you guys will recognize the subject. The caption is Some Studio Shots with the incredibly handsome JMO Bear. He's my favorite kind of model, gorgeous and bold. So this is from Devorama on Tumblr, which is Devin from Chicago, who I consider a friend. He's been to Drench for a number of years. He's coming back again this year. He was our photographer, involved with our photography for a couple years. And Devin does some pretty good stuff, and I knew that at some point he and JMO had set up some stuff because JMO posted pictures, and I recognize his watermark tag of Aroma, and I was like, "That son of a bitch got pictures with JMO." This particular photo set I had not seen yet. So in this photo set, it's a black background, and it's just JMO standing there. Some are black and white, some are full color, and he's just standing around. But JMO has a really great physical composure to him. I think a lot of people like he, has a certain amount of hair or fur, whichever you refer to it. He has a big belly. He has a beautiful butt. A lot of people like, but he's got thick thighs, thick calves. Like he's just thick, physicality from head to toe. Very solid, and I think that's what people kind of like. But I really like this idea, and in only one of the photos, JMO's smiling, which is what I think he's kind of known for. Is he has a really kind of infectious, beautiful smile. I think personally, and it's only in one of them. In the others, he looks very serious. So, or maybe contemplate. It's pretty good. So I liked this particular one. What I was referring to when I said I found out that Devin and JMO had been together to take photos was because JMO had a whole series of beautiful photos of him in a bathtub, and the camera was directly up above, like it was on the ceiling.
Right.
And I was kind of like, these look really kind of professional as opposed to just some I'm gonna stick my iPhone up on the ceiling somehow and take pictures. So that's when I was like, oh, so apparently they did some stuff. So if I had to be a betting man, I would say that Devin's actually taken more than one. He's done more than one photo shoot with them. So, and just so everyone knows, Devin posts things to Flickr, and then he has an auto feed that comes over to his Tumblr. So it gets a little confusing, I think, because sometimes people re-blog these photographs, and some people have quoted and been like, this is theft and blah, blah, blah. And then I have to kind of point out no, actually Devin is the photographer and this is his name and this is his account. And if you look, it came from Flickr. So it's not really reposting. It's how it feeds over.
Hey, you know those pictures you were talking about? They're the first thing on Devin's Tumblr.
Oh, are they?
I put in the live chat.
Cool. Yeah. So I don't think the set that I posted and these were at the same time, but they could have been. I'm not sure. Oh, and then there's some pictures of JMO with his inflatable.
Yep.
Because it wouldn't be JMO without his inflatables.
That's true. Yep. So anyways, that's my Tumblr pick for this week.
Yeah, he had a nice series. Moving on into the links. I got two. The first one, TurboTax. It's the best way to do your taxes. Enough said. As I said, I did within an hour and a half before my show. Got it accepted right before the show. Nice, quick, easy. Of course, my taxes were relatively easy. Yeah. But it's all online. It's all secure. Great.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I got a response to that message you sent. So I mentioned how I might see about us getting onto Diamond Time on Night Attack. Well, my link takes you directly there.
Okay.
To where they actually read my little Diamond Time thing on the Nut Attack show last week. They said it, and that's where they said, "Hey, I hope to see you at the thing on Saturday," which I didn't go to, which I probably should have, but.
And we'll go back,
etc. So, but I was all proud and excited about that somebody else was talking about us.
Sweet.
Cool. My pick is for Damon. So I don't know if you'd seen this yet, but Pentatonics, the acapella group, was on Lip Sync Battle. And this link is to the YouTube playlist of short clips, promos, and some interview type stuff. There's 10 videos, I think, altogether. And they vary in length. Some of the later ones repeat some of what you've seen earlier, but all 4 of the main members of Pentatonics do lip sync stuff. And so I'm vaguely familiar with the show. I haven't actually watched it, but I've seen some of the viral videos that have come out of it. And what got me was, and I don't know the names of the people that are in the band or in the group, whichever you want to call it. The gentleman that's blonde, that's part of Superfruit, I think it is.
Yeah, Superfruit.
He does Ariana Grande, who I'm not really familiar with, but I was like, oh, girl, she living and feeling it. Because apparently he tries to duplicate her music video, I guess is what a lot of what this stuff is coming from.
Yeah.
So
it's funny you mention this because I actually was thinking about picking this myself because I saw the one video 10 on this link, which was them trash talking each other. And I was like, yeah. So I think they're either were just on or will be on soon. But it's fun. I love it. I've seen I've seen portions of the show. I haven't seen the full show, but it's just them it's friends or they pick 2 celebrities and they come on and do obviously a lip sync to a song, and they amp it up with regards to production and what have you. Some of the most fun ones, I think, there was one, who was it? I can't remember who it was, but he actually had Beyonce. He was doing Beyonce, and Beyonce actually came out with it, and it was just fun. And then there's the guy who was in Spider-Man did Rihanna's
Umbrella.
Yeah. So it's just there's some awesome ones out there. So
yeah. No, the LSB, the lip sync battle stuff is very interesting. RuPaul's been asked about what Ru thinks of the concept of LSB because people say that the idea is being stolen from RuPaul's Drag Race from the drag community. And it's like, kind of like I noticed over time, over the seasons or years, if I'm correct, that the battles have gotten more elaborate, like the production value, the costumes, the backup dancers, the props. I mean,
I didn't mean to do that.
If you watch some of these videos and stuff, like even in this particular set, I was kind of like, wow, like there's something to be said for costuming, like kind of the person that's doing the lip sync. But like the one I was talking about, I think he had like 10 or 12 backup people. And it's pretty interesting. So, but I know that Damon's a huge Pentatonics fan, and I hadn't necessarily seen him post about it. So I was like, I'm going to put that out there before. I'm just going to make it.
I got one over him.
Yeah, it was really cool. It's fun. I would love to see the actual episode and see everything that they do. Excuse me. See the full on. Oh, sorry. Didn't mean me on like that.
I suppose it's starting to get late.
Yeah.
And before we end the show, Gary, we have some people to thank, and I might as well just put this on the screen since we're going to talk about them.
So a week ago, we started officially our Patreon. So for those of you that are not aware, Patreon is a subscriber service in which you can choose amongst preset levels determined that we put together for things that you receive from us. And what we do with the funds then is we can actually invest it in things like equipment and other stuff. And we have some goals. And since we started it last week, we got 5 people in the past week to sign up for Patreon. So we would like to thank the following individuals for joining us on Patreon. In this case, in the past week, we've gotten 3 people for the Cubster level and 2 people at the Buddy level. There's 4 altogether. So there's Cubster, Uber, Buddy, and Entourage. They have different amounts. And then depending on which level you pick is the rewards that you receive. So part of what this is for all the levels, you actually get thanked in what we call an end card in our YouTube videos. So if you're actually watching the YouTube video, you'll be able to see, and then it comes up. And so the font's really big right now because we're just starting this. So it'll get really interesting to see how it goes as we get more and more people. We might have to figure out how to do a scrolling credit thing or something. But we want to thank on the Cubster level, Aaron H, Charles W, Little Snows 1, or Little
Australia
Knows 1, I think. Yeah. And then at the Buddies level, we want to thank Eric L and John H for joining us on Patreon. So in terms of how Patreon works, on the first of the month, they make the deduction of your subscription level. And then within a couple of days, the finances end up getting transferred over. And so we are part of the way to our first goal, which is $50. So when it comes to once we raise $50, we've decided one of the things we're going to do is a monthly hangout. So we'll do a Google Hangout, and then the Entourage can actually come chat with us live about whatever you want. So that's one of the first things that we're kind of working towards. And I think we're currently at 30-ish, 31 out of $50. So by the end of this month, we might be there.
By the way, there's someone that had during the show had joined the Cubster level.
Yay!
So we're now like $40. Actually, it's like 44. Again, the website which I'm showing on the screen right now says 40, but that's like after Patreon's got of everything. But so we're essentially like $6 away for all intents and purposes, because at least for me, I'm always taking the total based off of the actual amount people are pledging versus how much we're specifically getting. But you can at least see how much we're actually getting. But once we hit $50 worth of pledges, like before Patreon, I think we should do that, unless you want otherwise. But also keep in mind, while we do have dollar amounts on these, it's or more. So if you like for some reason want to do like $8, you get the Uber level, which is $5 more. So you don't have to have that specific number. Like if you want to do $1.50 versus $1, or if you want to do $4 instead of $2, etc. It's just that's the threshold where it is. So you can select how much you want, and your reward is based off of when you meet each of those thresholds. Is all. So.
Yeah, so when you go to Patreon and you happen to look at the page, you'll be able to see what the levels spell out that you're going to get. The maximum or the highest level, quote unquote, of donation sponsorship as a patron is Cubster, and there's 7 rewards that are included in that. And then those will be divvied out, so to speak, over the time of the year. And then there's Uber, Buddy, and then Entourage being the lowest level. So for just $1 a month, you could, be supportive of the podcast. We wanted to recognize that everyone has kind of like different abilities to do stuff. And this comes a little bit from my personal philosophy. I've said for years, I think a lot of apps, a lot of media type things could severely make a killing at such a cheap level because of the volume of involvement or interest. And that isn't necessarily about us, but we've grown to this point. We have over 1,000 people that like us on Facebook. We have over, 300 some on YouTube, and that's been growing. So we've discussed this literally for years as an idea, and we're at this point where it costs a couple $100s a year for Jeff to have the domain and to host and that kind of stuff. And we've had some stuff with equipment issues, weirdly. And so we talked internally about how if we could raise, a small amount of money, we're not trying to get rich or anything. This isn't about making this a job and an income. How do we, be able to do stuff to give people things, but also help us at the same time? So, yep.
And there you have it.
And remember, this is all out of the goodness of your own heart. All we're asking is if you are able to afford any value for what you get from value from our shows, value for value sort of thing. And obviously, the regular podcasts and everything, the YouTube videos, all that is all still free of charge. We're not charging you for any of that. We're just asking for your help and for trying to maintain it, try to make the show better. And one of the benefits has already started. If you are a patron and you log into, go to the site, you'll see an RSS link there where you can get your own patron-only feed where it's basically an audio version of that YouTube video. Because I don't edit anything. Meanwhile, if you don't, you get the regular show on the audio feed from, when we actually start the show to when we actually end the show. So,
right.
So there's an added bonus to everybody who's on the entourage on Patreon. Is a Patreon.
So we're really actually honestly excited, and we can't thank you guys enough for helping support us and doing this thing. It was a big kind of like hold your breath and see what happens. But in the end, it came down to we have nothing to lose. Like we talked about on the financial end, that anything would be helpful. So that's why we kind of moved over to this concept in this format. So it's the end of the show. And for these first couple of shows, we'll probably talk about Patreon a little bit more, and then we'll back off on that as people become more familiar with what it is that we're doing with it.
Also keep in mind, this is per month. So while you would think, oh, so that's basically $1. That's like a quarter a show, right? Au contraire. Because we also have the Drag Race shows, which is extra added value. True. So you could say that if we're normally on a regular schedule of one Drag Race show, one regular show each week, you're going from like 4 shows to 8 shows for $1.
Yeah.
That's value. All right.
It's all about the value proposition. Right. All right.
It's that all being about said, the value for value. So
let's wrap up.
All right. There's plenty of ways to contact us. Pop over to our website, cubsoutloud.com, obviously. Pop over to our Patreon at patreon.com/cubsoutloud. I need to switch back.
Okay.
I got confused there for a second. Sorry about that. You can email us at cubsoutloud@gmail.com. Leave us a sexy voicemail or otherwise at 361-COL-TALK. That's 361-265-8255. Join the entourage in the Telegram chat at tinyurl.com/telegram-col. There's also a link on our About Us page on cubsoutloud.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, Google+, and YouTube. All that comes out loud in the appropriate place of the URL. We appreciate if you subscribe to our YouTube page. Join us in the Bear Underground, the official Bear website of Comes Out Loud. Pop over to iTunes, rate us there, subscribe to us through Google Plus or Google Play Podcasts, excuse me. And you can give us a thumbs up on Stitcher Radio. You can find me anywhere on the internet. It says Box Set, Box Puppy, Box Gub, Box something or other.
I am TheaterCup79 on Bear Underground, Tumblr, Growler, etc. Or you can find me as pup_umbra on Twitter.
If you would like to get in touch with me, you can pretty much find me anywhere online as Gaber73. If you're interested in what I'm clicking and reblogging, not reposting, over on Tumblr, it's GareBear73XXX because it's the naughty stuff. That's it.
And with that, say good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good one, y'all.
That was different.
So now I gotta update the image, the thank you image thing. I didn't know someone joined in the midst of the show, or I would have fixed
that. I was chatting him, or he chatted me first.
Oh.
Oh. Okay.
And I go, about time you became a patron. And he goes, shush.
Wow.
I'm handing my cable box in soon. So apparently, by dropping cable, he's subscribing to us. Kind of.
Oh, okay.
Or at least that's how I'm taking it. I don't know.
So what the person is saying is because they're not going to have a cable bill anymore, they have some disposable income.
Okay.
To take some disposable income and support us, which is awesome.
Damon probably doesn't even know who this person is.
Yeah, I have no idea who you're talking about.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's because you don't have the COL email tied to you in any way.
That's okay. You don't necessarily have to, because sometimes it is a little disorienting when I see some notifications and I'm like, what? Oh, it's for the podcast.
Yeah. I've got like several already connected to my Gmail account. I don't want another.
Oh well. Anyways, I'm gonna stop streaming.